So I'm Ray Norris, and I'm with the CSIRO, and I'm also a partner investigator in Castro. And the reason I'm in Castro is because my main research is doing this enormous radio survey of the sky that we're doing with the new ASCAP telescope. And we're going to be doing the deepest radio survey ever. And what we're trying to do is to look at galaxies going right back to the Big Bang and make all these observations of galaxies and try to put them in a sequence and understand how galaxies evolve from the earliest days. So what we hope is that we're going to see galaxies just a few 100 million years after the Big Bang, where the black holes are just turning on. And because we really don't understand, there's a lot of stuff we do understand about the universe, but stuff we don't understand includes, where do the black holes come from? We've absolutely no idea. So there are nice models about how you can make a black hole. We know the black holes are real, by the way. We've got very good observational data now telling us that black holes are real, they're in the middles of galaxies. And when we try to understand where the black holes come from, we've got these models which start at the Big Bang, and you start piling mass together and building the black holes. But that process takes billions of years. But what we see is that just 500 million years after the Big Bang, there are these enormous black holes, 1 billion times the mass of the Sun. We've no idea how you got to be there. This is telling us something really new about physics. There's something we've got wrong. Is it something to do with dark energy? Is it something to do with how the Big Bang worked? We don't know. But our current physics doesn't predict these black holes. And so we know we're on the trace of something new and interesting. I always wanted to know how the universe worked. So as a kid, you look up in the sky and you see all the stars and you think, oh, I wonder if there's other people up there. Are there people looking back down on Earth, looking at us? How did all the stars get there? All that sort of thing. And then as I went through high school and university, I guess my questions got a bit more focused, and you actually wonder, well, how did it start? And to some extent that's sort of answered by, yes, there was a Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago. We sort of understand how that works. We're pretty confident of all that. But actually there's a lot that's missing. And we're in a rather golden age of astronomy at the moment, where we know there's some really outstanding problems that we don't understand. They're probably quite fundamental. So what's interesting, if you go back to around 1900, and many astronomers at that time would say, well, we basically understand how the universe works. We know they're stars and they're burning and we're all in this galaxy. And we understand how physics works. We've got a few I's to dot and a few T's to cross, but basically we're there. And what they didn't know was in the next 20 years, they're going to get quantum mechanics. They're going to find the expanding universe. They're going to find general relativity, special relativity. All their world was turned upside down. It turned out they had only touched the tip of the iceberg. So now we're in this situation where we actually know there's a lot there that we don't know. And there's probably even more beneath. And so we've got a pretty good idea of some things, just like people in 1900, they knew how some aspects of physics worked really well, but there's whole great areas they didn't even suspect. And I suspect we're just in that position now of about to find out there's a whole load of stuff out there that we haven't touched yet. So I think, first of all, for a young person, they've got to decide what it is they really want out of life, and it's sort of an obvious thing to do. So in my case, I always wanted to be a scientist. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I didn't know not necessarily an astronomer, but a scientist. I really wanted to understand how the world worked. And I think if you have that sort of passion, then it becomes fairly obvious what the path is. For somebody who doesn't have that passion, you might still want to go into science. I mean, science is a good career. It's lots of good job opportunities, lots of interesting things to do. And not everybody who does science at uni ends up doing science, because it's also about problem solving. Physics in particular is all about problem solving. It's learning how to judge what are the good data, what are the good questions to ask, how best to answer them. And so it equips you for a whole load of different jobs. But if you do want to stay in science as a researcher, then you you've got to find out where your passion is and follow that. And you will have to do something like maths or science subject at uni. If you want to become a researcher, you then need to go on to do a PhD at a decent university. And then the career process is sort of interesting, because you do this PhD. It's very competitive. You have to be ready for that as well. You're going to be competing against lots of your peers who also want to become researchers in science. So you get your PhD, you then apply for postdoctoral positions, and they're competitive. But and then you get a second one. In those while you're just after you get your PhD, while you're doing the postdoc, you've got to establish your name as being internationally as being a leader in your field, and that's your job in those first 3 years after your PhD. And the people who have that passion do it on the whole. And if you're a bit half-hearted, if you want to do a 9-to-5 job, then it's probably not the job for you. You probably go and do something else, and maybe use your science skills, for example, as a teacher. And there's many teachers out there who have done a degree or even a PhD in astronomy and are able then to use that experience to inspire other people, which is fantastic. And other people, I have friends who are consultants, business consultants, management consultants, things like that, who work in the stock market, again using their problem-solving abilities from physics to address those problems. One guy I know, he works in the oil industry, again using those same skills.